Welcome to the neighborhood Ford store Steelers Extra Point.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome inside the KDKA studios for today's Extra Point. And the Steelers never got a chance to even try one today. That pretty much sums up this day. Thank you for joining us. We have about an hour and 45 minutes with you coming up. Bob Pompeani, Chris Hoke. We will have player reaction, coach reaction, and then your reaction. All you need to do to sum up this game is look in the first half. How these two teams started. It was actually a final score of 30-6. It wasn't that close, folks. If you watch that game, it should have been a blowout even before then. It started with an interception, a punt. Chris,
Not a great way to start a game.
And these are the things that bother me, though, about the offense, because Houston came out with a scripted offense that moved right down the field, and the Steelers sputtered and then eventually threw an interception.
Well, they came out, right, in that first half. I thought that the Texans had a wonderful game plan. Let me tell you why. They used the Steelers' defensive aggression against them, right? They talked all week about the third-string left tackle, the third-string center, the second-string left guard, on and on and on and on, and how T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith were going to get after this offensive line. Well, they used that aggression. They used that slobbering of those defensive ends and outside linebackers to get up the field and get sacks and started to throw quick little screen passes, started to use play action and use T.J. Watt's aggression getting down the line that he loves to do with rolling out in naked bootlegs and hitting guys, as C.J. Stroud did routinely throughout this game. So great game plan on the Texans' part because they used the Steelers' aggression and used their optimism that they want to do in this game against them.
Yeah, but that's something you might have expected given the fact they weren't going to slow down the Steelers. That was their goal. They had a bunch of backups in there on their offensive line, and kudos to Kendrick Green. He got injured at the end, but he played pretty well, as did all of them. No sacks today, so C.J. Stroud was able to do pretty much what he wanted to, and I'll give you props to him. He was making some very good passes in critical situations, and they moved right down the field. Actually, the Texans scored 3 touchdowns on their first drive before they finally counted one.
There's no question.
It was a crazy first drive, but they put it in, and they never trailed, and they never really were threatened after that.
The one thing that impressed me about C.J. Stroud and watching film in preparation for this game was how cool and calm and collected he was. He goes out there, nothing rattles him. He comes in, he's a big game player, throwing the ball, and he's smooth, Bob, putting the ball right on the money. You saw that last touchdown pass to Nico Collins, right on the money for 52 yards to seal the game, really to put it away and embarrass the Steelers. That one showed to me really what kind of player he is and he will be in the future for the Texans.
And at Steelers, man, Patrick Peterson got beat on that play clearly. It was not even close. Levi Wallace had his problems. You wonder why Joey Porter Jr. isn't on the field more. We'll have more on that, more on the offense or lack thereof coming up. But right now, Mike Tomlin, who spoke just moments ago, will take you inside of the stadium down in Houston.
You know, not a good day at the office for us. From an agenda standpoint, we didn't do a lot of the things that we desired to do. We didn't stop a lot of the things that we thought that they desired to do, and thus the outcome. I'll be specific. They ran the ball with consistency on us throughout. We deferred in an effort to get ourselves off to a fast start potentially, and I thought they did a nice job of establishing tempo, and they ran the ball on us, man. We got to be better versus the run. We're not going to get what we desire to get defensively until we settle the run down. We didn't do that today. They were in manageable possession downs. You don't get them one-dimensional. You don't get an opportunity for splash, the splash that we thrive on. And so, it's mute points, man, until we get better at stopping the run, making the power fall the correct direction. It's not dramatic, but it's just the direction in which the power is falling. They stayed on schedule, and we just got to be better in that regard. On offense, man, it's like we talked about at the early portions of the week. That's a fundamentalist group. They do a really good job of minimizing splash and making you operate and making you be efficient. And to be quite honest, we weren't efficient enough. We didn't minimize enough negativity. We didn't stay on schedule enough. And so drives get stalled or you settle for field goals. And so it was a perfect storm for us offensively and defensively from that perspective. They established a run and played behind it on their offense. They created inefficient things, and we didn't work efficient on the other side of the ball, and thus the outcome. We got a lot of work to do, obviously, but I congratulate the Houston Texans. They played a really good football game. They played to their personality. They just did it better than we did today. Questions? Mike, what did you tell us about Kendall? Oh, I'm sorry, injuries. Dan Moore's got a knee. needs to be evaluated. Pat Frymuth's got a hamstring. Kenny, same thing. He's got a knee that needs to be evaluated. And Leal, I don't know what the status of Leal is. He's being evaluated as we speak. And so those are the 4 guys that went down in game that did not come back. I don't have a lot of information as I stand here right now specifically about what those injuries are. You know, I just thought that we didn't operate efficiently enough. Penalties and so forth, negativity. It took us too long to get the run game going. And that's kind of a synopsis of it.
Mike, how were they able to do what they did against your defense with that rebuilt line? I don't think they had a sack today.
They ran the football. And so, you know, they deserve a lot of credit for that, man. They ran that football with some backups in there. And stayed on schedule and minimized our opportunities. Like we talked about during the top of the week, man, if they're on schedule, man, it's rhythm passing. And so, you know, when they play to their agenda, man, they really get an opportunity to neutralize the rush. And so, you know, that's a component of the question that you asked from that perspective. But we just got to do a better job against the run, for sure.
Mike, how do you evaluate Kenny's performance prior to the injury?
You know, we all got to do better. I don't know that I look at it in that way as I sit here today. I'm looking at us in totality in terms of what we need to do to win. I'll probably be better positioned to answer that later in the week, next time we get together.
Anyone else?
Like that 4th and 1 play where Kenny get hurt, you called timeout before that. You guys were running the ball well. Is that what you talked about?
The spot wasn't where we thought it was. I think they, you know, used the replay to establish or correct the spot. And so where the ball ended up and where we thought the ball ended up based on the official was on our sideline was 2 different things. That's why we called timeout.
Your thoughts if you have to go forward with Mitch? You feel good about Mitch?
Certainly.
Anyone else?
Will you contemplate any changes or still too early?
Regarding changes regarding, hell yeah, we got to make some changes, man. That was an ugly product we put out there today. And so we're not going to do the same things and hope for a different outcome. What those changes are, man, we'll put together a plan in preparation this week.
All right.
So that's Mike Tomlin talking about changes. You wonder what changes there could be. Certainly a lot of offensive problems, but specifically to what he just talked about there, Chris, the run game of the Texans pretty much gouged them when they wanted to. I mean, Singletary as well as Pierce were running. Yeah. The inside linebacker play of the Steelers, I thought was getting better. It wasn't very good today.
Last week they got better. This week they reverted back to how they played the first 2 weeks. And this Texans team came into this game, the 28th ranked offensive rushing team in the NFL, and they had the 31st, the second to last best yards per carry in the NFL. And they came into this game and ran the ball 38 times for 139 yards. They averaged 70 yards a game, Bob, coming into this game. They went for double what they've run the first 3 games, and they averaged 3.7 yards a carry. They got after the Steelers defense in the run game. They pushed around that defensive line most of the game. The linebackers, when they're free, Bob, when they don't have a blocker on them, they struggle to get disengaged from blockers, whether it's a running back or whether it's a lineman, whether it's some kind of tight end or anyone. They can't get off blocks. So they struggle there. And then this third level, Pastor Peterson missed a lot of tackles today. Levi Wallace missed a lot of tackles today. What you're seeing is really just a struggle from the first, second, third level in stopping the run.
They just did not get engaged at all. Were pushed around. That's something the Steelers don't like to do, but they got sucked up in that. And the Texans knew they had them. They kept doing it. You didn't see big names being mentioned at all. No sacks today. Didn't hardly hear from Ogunjobi and Peterson, and Watt and Highsmith were kind of neutralized. So credit their game plan. The Steelers didn't have a response. Yeah. Especially at halftime, they came out around the ball, but defensively, they couldn't stop them.
One of the things I don't like to see is when you start to see a lot of defenders complaining about the run. And then when you the holding. And then what you see when they run the replay back, you're seeing these guys, they're being held. If a offensive lineman has his hands on the inside and you're not trying to violently disengage and get away from that offensive blocker, they're not going to throw the flag. It's okay to have their hands holding you. It's when they're out here or when you're trying to disengage and they're holding on to you, that's when the flag gets thrown. And Keanu Benton there at the end of the game was getting upset because Kendrick Green was holding him, but he had his hands inside and he was trying to do nothing to get off the block. That's not going to be thrown. They're going to let that go. And the Steelers, when you start seeing defenders complaining about being held, that's when they know, hey, these guys are getting manhandled.
Well, it would be helpful for the defense if the offense could do something. They did not score a touchdown today, and they've struggled largely this entire season. Last week, maybe some evidence it would change. It regressed today. We'll talk about Kenny Pickett, his performance, his injury, what they do next. It's all coming up, and then a little later, we'll take your calls as well on a special edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. It's all coming up right here as we continue live KDK Studios following really an embarrassing day for the Steelers. No way else to describe it. 30-6, and it wasn't that close, folks. We'll have more next right here on KDKA.
Welcome back to the neighborhood Ford store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, welcome back. 30-6 at Pasting. The Steelers fall to 2-2. Cleveland also lost. Baltimore won. Cincinnati got blown out. It's been a wild first 4 weeks of the NFL season. The Steelers just not effective in any aspect of their game today. 30-6 your final score. Welcome back, Bob Pompeani, Chris Hoke with you. And we're talking about the Steeler offense, which was non-existent today. It was play calling, it was preparation, it was execution, it was the quarterback. Kenny Pickett had a wide open opportunity in the back of the end zone at one of these drives, and he could not locate Connor Hayward. He instead threw into double coverage, almost had an interception. But I thought the biggest call of this game was a 4th and 1 in which Matt Canada and his offense decided to go into a shotgun, Chris.
Yeah.
They were running the ball well. They had just picked up 17 yards, and I thought George Pickens actually could have gotten the first down before it came to this. But a shotgun, he gets sacked, they don't block it well, he hurts himself, and now he's out, and it could be a few weeks.
Yeah, I thought that they were running the ball well. You saw several times that Najee Harris was running the ball very violently and physical, really angry. He was running the ball there in the first part of that third quarter. They should have given the ball to him, line up in two backs and really pound the football there. I believe they would have gotten the first down. They went shotgun. That was a bad call there on the part of this offense and Matt Canada. They have to go with what they were doing well at that time, and that was running the football. And I still think that Kenny could have found someone open. He held onto the ball too long. Broderick Jones struggled in this game when he came in, and that's part of the reason why. That was pressure that came off the left side there with Broderick Jones. So all those people that wanted to see Broderick Jones in there instead of Dan Moore Jr., be careful what you ask for. You got it today.
Well, he is a rookie. He's going to have to learn on the fly now if Moore's out for any extended period of time. And right after that, and keep in mind, it was 16-6 at that point. The Steelers had the momentum. Mm-hmm. If they go on and score, all of a sudden that's a new game. Instead, he's sacked. They lose possession. What does Texans do? They go right down the field, and they come up with a very good play call of their own. A halfback option pass from Devin Singletary to Dalton. It was a great call, something we haven't seen enough here in terms of offensive game planning and scheming. Here's the other thing that kind of bothered me, just because of the way this game was going. You knew they were really struggling for offense, Chris, and they were down twice in Houston territory. It took them a while to get there in the third quarter, and they both settled for field goals. I think Mike Tomlin maybe should have rolled the dice and gone for things instead of accepting 3 points. To me, accepting 3 points was not going to be enough the way this game had evolved.
Well, at that time, though, think about it. He went for 3 points. It was 16-6. They go down and they converted that 4th and 1. Who knows where this game goes?
I'm talking about the 2 field goals
before that. Prior to that, yes. And the reality is you just want to get points on the board, trying to build momentum. They were moving the football. But look at that, Bob. It was the first time they were moving down and they had to settle for a field goal. It was 3rd and 2. They gave the ball to Najee. It was a tackle for a loss. Right? Moved to 3rd and 4. Then the next time it come down before they kicked the field goal, they had a 32-yard catch and an angry run by Najee Harris. And then they had another short yardage conversion they couldn't convert. And so then they kicked another field goal. But if you look to it, what happened the next time when they went for it on 4th and 1, they got stopped. So I think Tomlin,
but they were in the shotgun. That's what I mean. The shotgun is the wrong thing.
Exactly. That's a bad call. But what I'm saying is he's looking at momentum, putting points on the board, building confidence, and looking at they're still in the game. There's a lot of football left. And the momentum, like you said, was in favor of the Steelers. They were moving the ball. They were stopping C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, at that point in the game, was only making about 50% of his throws. He was not converting a lot of his throws. And so they had C.J. Stroud in a moment of struggle in this game. They had the momentum. He thought, we keep going, we can get back in this game and possibly win the game.
Yeah, but that 4th and 1 call was the dagger that did him in, and they eventually went the other way and put the game away. All right, T.J. Watt, on a day where his brother got inducted into their Ring of Honor down there in Houston, he was looking to have a better day than this, obviously. No sacks on the day. They couldn't stop the run. Here's T.J. after the game down at NRG Stadium.
We were out of gaps. We didn't tackle in the backfield, and that combination leads to what you saw out there today.
You guys were so good at that last week, they're not so good this year. Why do you think such a difference from you?
I don't know. We'll have to go back, watch the film, and see where the shortfallings were. And I personally didn't play well at all today, so I'm sure that's part of it. And I think we just, I don't know, have to look at the film and make adjustments and move forward.
Anything unusual that they might have done up front to keep you guys off the stride?
I don't know. I think every single week you're going to see different type of things. I think I don't want to take any credit away from him. I think he played a great game. Was getting the ball out quick. Was getting the ball in his playmakers' hands. Was able to extend some plays, and they were able to run the ball too, which controlled the time of possession and kind of just the tempo of the whole game.
Did you have to win a couple games, gaining some momentum? Was it surprising and disappointing to come up and play like that today?
No doubt.
Anything else?
Can you talk about what this weekend meant for your brother and just the community?
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm very happy for him. Glad that he got the reception that he deserves.
All right, let's take a look at some of TJ Watt's stats for the day, and not much from what his bar is. It's very high, especially going against some really inexperienced offensive linemen. But they schemed it up. They did a better job than the Steelers coaches as far as preparing for this. And this is what you get: 2 total tackles, 1 solo, 1 quarterback hit, 0 sacks. That is not a TJ Watt day.
Just a few hours ago, would you ever imagine that would be the stat line for TJ Watt? 6 sacks coming in, averaging 2 sacks a game, and now you have this against a beat-down offensive line. 0 sacks, 1 QB hit. They did a great job, Bob. What they did, throwing those screens, slowed down the rush, their play action, they used TJ Watt. He loves to fly down the line and runs away. They ran the play action away from TJ Watt, which had him fly down the line, those naked boots coming right back at him. He was out of the picture. Great game plan by the Texans to take advantage of his aggression in this game.
That's one way to do it, is to make really well-designed play calls that are screens, that keep people on their heels as opposed to their toes. And the Steelers really couldn't dig in that way, and they were vulnerable in the middle of the field. We saw 3 plays at least that went for big gainers in the middle of the field. It's something they have not been able to do themselves. But, Chris, those plays worked because the linebackers, Landon Roberts, was attacking the ball, but in coverage, not so much. They had a lot of problems in coverage today, those inside linebackers.
And the linebackers, the DBs, they do a good job when it's man-to-man. When they go zone, they struggle in zone. Their zone is very, very loose. It's not very tight. There's very few combat catches that the Texans had to make today. And I would say, argue, even the first 3 weeks of the season prior to this game, a lot of these catches are open, non-combat catches. They've got to play tighter in the zone. When they go man-to-man, they do much better. They bring Joey Porter Jr. in. He's good. I think at this time, you got to start to consider. Coach Tomlin said in his press conference, there needs to be some changes made. Heck yes, I think he said. I believe that Joey Porter Jr. needs to be put in this game. Levi Wallace has really struggled the last couple of games. He had 2 takeaways. I believe it was last game or the game before that. But those balls, one was a good play. The other one was thrown right to him late in the game. I believe it's time to make some changes there. Patrick Peterson is leaving less than to be desired. That back in the defense, and Minka really not shown up today, really has struggled this season to this point.
And I wonder what changes they'll make on offense, because a lot of the pressure goes to Matt Canada. Some of the play calling, you'd have to admit, was very predictable at times. And this is a rut that you get into. Spiro Didi's on the broadcast pretty much said, you kind of know it's coming. And Houston's defense knew a lot of these plays were coming. You can't have that in this situation, because then if you're predictable, you know what you're going to have. This defense was stacking the box even when the Steelers were running the ball well. They were daring the Steelers to throw it on the field.
Well, what they're saying is, hey, listen, we don't think Kenny Pickett can beat us. So they're stacking the box. And the Steelers are playing into that strategy, because when they go with Najee primarily, they load the box. They bring in 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, and 2 backs with 2 tight ends. And what happens is that's when you bring the extra safety in. That's when you bring the corners in. You get that corner blitz, because everybody's there around the core. Loosen things out, spread them out, and run the football. And if they wanted, Matt Canada talked about that this week, Bob. He said, we want to run from being more spread out, because that does not introduce all of those other players into the box. You saw Najee Harris. They got the run game going, but not early,
right,
where they needed to move the chains with Kenny Pickett going play action, rollouts. That's what running game does. When they're not running football, those things are not effective.
Let me ask you this, and this may be nitpicking on my part, but Kenny Pickett seems to check down quicker than he needs to. You know what I mean? There was a check down to Freiermuth, it looked like.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you don't sometimes allow plays to develop.
Yeah.
Is he doing too much of that?
I think his internal clock, I think it goes a lot quicker than other quarterbacks, right? Inside, the quarterback usually has 1,001, 1,002, whenever that time is, and they feel comfortable getting rid of the ball. If they don't get rid of the ball when that internal clock starts to panic, they either throw it away, they either force the ball or run. And I think Kenny Pickett has not completely gotten comfortable this season, Bob, yet. And his internal clock is a lot quicker than other quarterbacks. And that's when he does some of the things you're talking about.
And give credit to Houston, boy, they were coming after him, too. They have some good young players on that team. You may not know their names now, but you will in time.
Yeah.
It's a young team that D'Amico Ryans has put together there as first-year coach. He's a good defensive guy. You saw some of that today because that's what his specialty was in San Francisco. When we come back, we'll talk about what happens if Kenny Pickett is not ready to play next week. Chris, I'll ask you who your choice is. Is it Mitch Trubisky or do you even go Mason Rudolph? We'll get into that and more.
Wait and see.
Oh, a little teaser for you. We'll have that when we come back. You're watching Neighborhood Ford Store Extra Point right here on KDKA.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, welcome back. Here are our JP Roofing final stats of this game. Chris, when you dissect them, all you need to know is that the first 28 plays in opposing territory were all Houston Texans. The Steelers did not get past the 50-yard line until 3 minutes into the third quarter. You just can't have that.
You can't have that. You can't get past, like you said, midfield in the first drive of the third quarter. And here, what shows up to me, 38 rushes for 139 yards. Nobody ever would have expected that with how they're running the ball the first 3 games. That's why the time of possession is 32 minutes, 35 seconds. It was much worse than that earlier in the game in terms of the difference with the Steelers and Texans. It's just overall, look at that, first downs, 24 first downs versus the Steelers 12. Let me tell you what that comes down to. A lot of those third down tries for the Texans were third and short to medium. The Steelers primarily and generally was third to medium to long throughout this game. That's why you see the 24 first downs versus 12 for the Steelers.
They had a lot of big chunk plays, over 10 yards, several over 20 yards, and one over 40. And when you do that in a game, it's not good. Now, Kenny Pickett, we know he has some sort of knee injury. You're not sure what that is. We won't find that out until later this week. So the question is, moving forward, you have the Baltimore Ravens coming in here. They beat up on Cleveland today. Cleveland did not have Deshaun Watson. He was out with an injury. They only managed 3 points. So if you're Mike Tomlin, do you just go right back to Mitch Trubisky, or would you do something different?
Well, I'll tell you what they're going to do, and I'll tell you what I think they should do. I think they're going to go with Mitch Trubisky, right? They'll give him a week of prep. He's a veteran guy. I think they need to go down a little deeper on that depth chart and bring up Mason Rudolph. I've been saying this, Bob, on the radio and on TV for 2 years, that I still think that Mason could arguably be the best quarterback on that roster. He throws a good deep ball. He's shown that he started the last couple years when he has, that maybe 2 years ago, that he could throw the ball really well. People talk about mobility. I see Kenny run the ball, 3 or 4 times the last 2 games, and that's about it. It's not about, to me, he throws a nice ball. He has good command of that offense. He's very mature. I'd say give the ball to Mason and see what happens.
Very interesting. We'll see how that plays out this week. In the meantime, you're going to hear from Mitch Trubisky coming up a little bit later. Got into the game, and at that point it was pretty much over. But right now, Broderick Jones on his first real opportunity in the NFL. He took over for an injured Dan Moore. This is what he said after the game.
It's tough, man. You know, it's just tough to go out there and, you know, give it your all and, you know, not have the end results that you want. So, you know, we just got to get back in the lab and continue to get better.
Calvin just said it's one of the losses that you want it to sting. You want to remember something like this.
Yeah. First, like, real game plan, and it's a loss. So, you know, it's like it's just adding fuel on the fire for me to, you know, enhance and get better, you know, like at a rapid pace.
I know you weren't in there at the beginning of the game, but why the slow starts?
You just got to put it on us, you know. You just got to execute. Got to be able to execute what coach is calling, and you know, just go out there and be able to give it our all. You know, every play, no matter what it is, and you know, just do it to the best of our ability.
Your first real opportunity out there. I mean, outside of the score, how'd you feel?
You know, it's good to play. A lot of things to get better on, you know, so I can't wait to get in the lab film room, correct those mistakes, and, you know, continue to, you know, just strive towards those goals that I want to continue to get better on.
4th and 1 play when Kenny got hurt. Can you just tell me what happened during that?
Just a busted play. That's all it was, really. You know, I'm mad, you know, because, like, you know, I got love for Kenny. So, you know, when I see something like that go down, you know, it just, you know, words can't even explain. So.
All right, that's number 77, Broderick Jones. First opportunity after the Steelers moved up in the draft, took him 14th overall. The big part of this game came down to where Najee Harris was really running the ball well in the second half. You mentioned that 32-yard. It was 16-3. They're driving once again, 32 yards. And then they go Harris +5, Harris +6. Then they throw the ball once they get 1st and goal. Incomplete right off the bat. There was good coverage. Give it to Najee. Only gets 3. 3rd and goal. That's when Pickett missed Hayward in the back of the end zone and instead threw into double coverage. It results in another field goal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the reality is you want to get the ball to Najee as often as you can when he's running the way he was running in that 3rd quarter. In the 1st quarter, they couldn't get things going because they kept interception, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3. You know, it was over and over again. They kept punting the ball. They could get no kind of fluidity, no kind of momentum or flow in their offense. And the second half, you saw that. They came out with a little more energy, and that's when he was able to run the football. When he hits the ball quick, and there's a little opening, that's when he's at his best. But if you make Najee move in the backfield, he's done. That's a better type of offensive scheme, but it's not a good offensive scheme at all for Jaylen Warren, where he's able to go quick to speed right away. With Najee Harris, there has to be some kind of soft edge. There has to be a bigger hole so that he can build up the momentum to get through, because then he can run angry and run through people and over people, which he has shown he can do. But today, I believe in the second half, they could have given him the ball, especially on that 4th and 1.
All right, you saw Nate Herbig for the first time this year, taking over for James Daniel, who was out with the injury. What did you think of his performance?
The same. It's the same. I think it's all the same right now. They really struggled, Bob, with games. When I mean games, are stunts up front, when you have tackles going outside, ends coming underneath, or a combination of that. They really struggle to pick that up. And I believe it's partly because they're still learning how to communicate and work together. And also, guys just aren't moving and flowing and feeling it right now. A lot of times you saw those ends coming around underneath. Mason Cole was looking the wrong way or wasn't seeing it. They're not working together, and that's when you're going to get Kenny Pickett hit, and he's going to throw the ball. And that's why he really his internal clock is very quick, because the guys are coming free so quickly.
All right, we'll take a break. We have more coming up. You're going to hear from Mitch Trubisky when we return, and then after that, we'll get some phone calls from you out there at 412-575-2600. It's a beautiful day in Pittsburgh. It was an ugly day in Houston. 30-6 your final score. We're back with more post-game coverage of the Steelers' loss that puts them tied for second now with Cleveland at 2-2 behind first place Baltimore. We're back after this.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
We continue live right here on KDKA, and this is the updated injury report. Not many specifics. Kenny Pickett has some sort of knee injury. Pat Freiermuth has a hamstring. He got hit a couple of times pretty hard today on plays where he got wiped out. Dan Moore Jr. with a knee as well. He left the game, never came back. And then DeMarvin Leal has an unspecified injury. All of those guys did not return. And as far as Pickett, that was really the play of the game, even though I thought the first half was just really how they lost this game. They had nothing, but they had a chance down 10, had the ball, 4th and 1, shotgun, and there comes Jonathan Greenard, and he was outstanding today. Got to him. Not only did he lose 9 yards, changed the possession, but Pickett, had a hard time getting up, had to be helped off, eventually went to the locker room. And so we don't know the extent of that, but we can assume that it probably could be a couple of weeks. Maybe, until,
at a minimum, I think it would be a minimum a few weeks.
Based on the way he was walking. We're not doctors, although we play them on the show sometimes.
Hopefully taking him out and taking him back in the locker room was a precaution.
Right.
But you have to think a lot of times when someone is declared out and with a knee injury and they go in the locker room, that it's going to be at least 2, 3, 4 weeks.
But Mitch Trubisky came in there at the end. Again, the game was pretty much over at that point. He played the rest of the game, and he did speak. Kenny Pickett did not speak, as you would assume, with that injury, but Trubisky did speak after the game.
on the sideline. So not how we wanted to finish the game there, not how we wanted the game to go at all, but we got to flush it, get back to work, and go get another one this week.
If you're in a position where you have to start next week, how comfortable do you feel given your familiarity with the offense and your experience last year?
I feel comfortable. That's why they brought me back here, to be ready to go in at any moment notice. And we just got to have a good week of practice. Whatever happens, happens, and be ready to roll. But we got to learn from this one and just look in the mirror and get ready to go.
How tough of a situation is that for the offense as a whole to have Kenny go down in the third quarter when things, kind of starting to pick up offensive momentum?
It's tough. It kind of kills your morale a little bit when your quarterback goes down. So you never want to see that. But we got to pick him up, and everyone's got to pull together, and we got to find a way to fight this week.
It seemed like you guys were making a little bit of a push too. You got a couple field goals. You get the first down there, maybe things are different.
Yeah, we had some opportunities. Felt like the game was closer than what it ended up being, but obviously not enough at the end. So tough situation to come into, but we got to finish strong and, like I said, learn from it, flush it, and get back to work for this next week.
What's the biggest issue for this offense right now as you look at it?
It's hard to see. It's hard to say. It's a multitude of things. Number one thing, whatever play comes in, you got to execute it. All 11 guys got to be on the same page. For me, what I've been seeing from the sidelines is we got to stay ahead of the chains, stay out of those third and long situations. And when you get in the red zone, score. It all sounds pretty obvious, but it's easier said than done. So we just got to go out there, execute, all 11 guys on the same page, and we just got to show some more heart. I think more heart will help this offense.
How do you kind of characterize the mood of the offense after that game?
The mood right now is we lost. It sucks. Nobody's feeling good about ourselves right now. But it's professional football. You got to learn from it. Strap your boots back up and go back to work this week. So this is a resilient group. We didn't finish the game how we wanted, but I believe in this group to pull together and do some better things next week.
Have you been able to talk to Kenny at all since he came?
We spoke briefly. So we're not sure what it is. So just continue to stay in contact and make sure we continue to pick him up because it's a frustrating situation. It sucks.
Mitch, from what you saw before you got in there, what wasn't working? What were the struggles, the problems today?
Like I said, just getting behind the sticks too early. We got the run game going, but a little too late at the end. So we got to start games faster. We got to stay ahead of the chains, try to stay out of those third and long situations, and come away with some touchdowns. When the defense like that is fundamentally sound, they're just keeping everything in front. Sometimes you got to dink and dunk to move the ball up the field, and you got to execute better than they are. So I thought they did a great job. Obviously, well coached on defense over there, and we got to be better this week.
Well, that's a recurring theme. Start quicker. It has not happened really in 2.5 years. They have really come out slow in first quarters, and today was one of the worst performances there. As you take a look at the quarterback comparison, Kenny Pickett with a 59 rating, and then you look at C.J. Stroud. Once again, that should be updated. I think it's 16 of 30 were his final numbers. And the bottom line there is, and he had 2 touchdowns, that C.J. Stroud has gone now 4 games without an interception. They talk a lot about rookies coming into the game and how poised they are. This guy has been better than most. In fact, if you go back in history, I don't think any quarterback has started their first 4 games raw like this and not throwing an interception.
Yeah, you could tell that he was prepared to come into the NFL, right? His big-time college football at Ohio State prepared him for this kind of play. And he's coming in here, and he's not taking a lot of chances. Is he making some bad throws at times? Yes, he's still throwing behind guys like you see Kenny Pickett doing. But the majority of his throws are nice, smooth, solid throws. And what I'm seeing, again, Bob, I'll go back to what I said earlier. When the Steelers are in zone coverage, they are not playing tight. It's not a tight zone, and guys are floating in that zone and finding the soft spot, and C.J. Stroud was able to throw the ball nicely in there, and those balls were accurate. They were nicely thrown balls, as you saw in that 52-yard touchdown pass, was beautifully thrown right on the fingertips and brought in.
Yeah, that was a touch pass, and he put it right on the money, and he burned Pat Peterson. Let me just play hypothetical with you. Let's say Kenny Pickett did not get injured in this game. Do you think Mike Tomlin might have changed quarterbacks just given the way things had gone? Would you have done that?
I don't think so at this point. I think it's too early to do that because with a guy with Kenny, right, I think he's struggling a little bit with his confidence. It comes and goes throughout a game. There's times when the stress is on. A 2-minute drill, Kenny does really well, right? When they get up there and things are high intensity, he gets after it. It's when things kind of start to slow down, when he panics. And so I believe his confidence kind of comes and goes throughout this game. And if you would have done that, I think it would have been much more difficult for him to rebound and respond, thinking, oh, now is my leash short? If I throw this ball, and so you would see him overthinking things. You would see him going out there playing not to make a mistake rather than going out there to make a play.
Do you think the play calling inhibits him at all? Given the fact that it's been predictable at times.
Predictable, but guys are open, right? Okay. when you guys think about that, I think about Peyton Manning when I played. They lined up pretty much in the same formation. They lined up with the same guys in the left and right, and they said, stop us, this is what we do best. Go out there and execute. And if you're telling me now, hey, is it predictable and guys are covered, and their guys were covered, but there were times when George Pickens, you throw the ball to him, let him go get the ball. Let him go get the ball, right? But I think in this situation, Pickett's still missing guys that are open.
All right, we're going to take a break here, and we have an update on some of these injuries. We'll also hear from Calvin Austin. It's all coming up as we continue our coverage of a Steelers 30-6 loss down in Houston, drops them to 2 wins and 2 losses. We'll be back with more right after this.
Welcome back to the Neighborhood Ford Store Steelers Extra Point.
All right, we're back to take a look around the league. You see the Ravens all over the Browns today. Baltimore looking good. They went to 3-1. Again, no Deshaun Watson for the Browns, and they were ineffective offensively. You take Chubb out of there and him out of there. They didn't have much today. So the Browns are 2-2. The Ravens, top of the division at 3-1. They come here next Sunday. How about the Bengals? Only 3 points again. They're really struggling offensively. Tennessee had Derrick Henry running wild, 122 yards, and they ran behind him and won 27-3. So the Bengals are now 1-3. The Bills, Dolphins scored 70 last week on Denver, only 20 today. Josh Allen, 21-24, 4 touchdowns. He was outstanding. Then you see the Rams over the Colts today. That one needed overtime. And the Rams are a very interesting team. The Colts have come close. They won last week in Baltimore. They could not pull it off today. Calvin Austin is the guy who came up big as you take a look at the standings here for the AFC North, updated. And again, the Ravens are 2-0 in division. This is going to be a big one coming up here on Sunday because with the Steelers at 1-1 now, they own a tiebreaker over the Browns. But look at the Bengals. You know, at some point, it's going to be hard to overcome if you keep digging that way.
And there's a lot of problems in that locker room. You just saw that there was a lot of talk after that game, and the players are not happy with Joe Burrow throwing the football, and the guys are thinking they are open. But what a game to have after a game like this for the Steelers, to have the Baltimore Ravens coming here, your rival. I mean, what a game to wake you up and say, we better get back on track or we're going to be in trouble, because that game will do it if no other game does.
You got to get up for that one. You got to win those division games. Will determine who wins this division most likely. Calvin Austin, as I said, had a big play last week, the bomb in Las Vegas. Today, not so much. Let's hear from him after the game.
You know, it's tough for us. I mean, we put a lot of pressure on the defense when we get off the slow starts, but, you know, it just comes down to simple execution, and we obviously didn't get that done today.
What do you think? It's just execution, or is it more?
It's us, you know what I'm saying? We knew the game plan coming in and what they were going to present and, you know, force us to get on long drives, and we just didn't, you know, execute enough to put those long drives together, you know. So we just got to go right back to work and look at, you know, the film and see what we missed, and probably going to be, you know, little details on each play.
How has this been?
I mean, anytime you lose is frustrating because you put in so much work throughout the week. So it's always frustrating when you lose. But, you know, we just going to go right back to the drawing board and get right back to work.
You think you guys can just shower off?
Nah, you know, we got to let this one sting a little bit, you know, because this was a big one. But, you know, in the league, that's what it's about. You know, we going all about shaking back and getting ready for that next one. But, you know, it's all right for this one to, you know, hurt and remember, because, like, we don't want this feeling again, because, you know, this ain't a good feeling, getting beat like this on the road, you know. So we're going to remember this one and just go back to work and hopefully, you know, work to not have this feeling anymore.
Mike Calvin Austin is trying to figure out ways to use him more. 3 receptions. He was targeted 5 times, 24 yards total. The long was 12, and they just didn't have enough offensive plays once again. And when you don't have offensive plays, you can't really utilize a lot of these guys.
Absolutely, and that interception, I would like to see him go up and high point that ball. Yes, he's smaller in stature and height than Steven Nelson is, but I'd like him to see up and try to high point that ball. I was always taught, and I always heard Coach Cowher say this, that when the ball's thrown up in the air, only 3 things can happen. It's a complete pass, it's an incomplete pass, or a defensive pass interference. It should never be an interception. I think on that throw, interception, I thought it was a great scheme too, schematically. They brought Freiermuth underneath, pulled the safety down. You go underneath one-on-one, you've got to go up and make that catch or make sure that Steven Nelson doesn't make that catch. What happened shouldn't have happened.
But it was slightly underthrown also. And I know it's hard to hit a guy with 4.3 speed. Last week he did that in stride, put it out ahead of the play. This was a little bit behind.
Listen, I'm a Kenny Pickett critic here, but I think in that situation, you got to go up and get that ball. You got to go up and get it, and he's undersized a little bit. So in those situations, he's at a disadvantage. But in my mind, you saw it later in the game when the ball went up and George Pickens went up and got the ball out of there and was more of a defender. At that moment, you either go up and catch the ball or make sure that the defender does not catch that ball.
Mason Cole speaks for the offensive line after the game at NRG Stadium.
Yeah, we just we have these spurts where we look good, and we're not doing it soon enough in games. We're not functioning efficiently. I think we're waiting on splash plays, and when we don't get them, we're not converting third downs, and it's just inefficient, bad ball.
When Kenny goes down and Mitch has to step up, do you have any conversations with Mitch before that return?
No. I mean, usually just take a couple of snaps, hear his cadence because they're always just a little different. But no, we know what Mitch can do, and we got trust in Mitch whenever he's got to go in.
You had a chance to talk to Kenny, get any sort of update from him at all since he went out?
Yeah, I talked to him, but he's a little banged up, and we'll see what happens from here.
Mason, when you guys come out in the second half the way you did, and Najee has those big runs, instead of looking at the stuff that doesn't work, what was it that did work? What can you guys be doing to get to that point?
Yeah, I think there's times where we're running the ball really well, and then one bad or negative run will scare us away from it, and we're behind the chains, and we're trying to catch up, and you get in bad situations. So we just have to be more consistent across the board. We're just not good enough consistently, and it's killing us right now.
Specifically protection-wise, 3 sacks, and the Texans only had 4 come in. Did they do anything that caught you guys off guard? What kind of take me through?
No. I mean, it was one was a 4th and 1. He was trying to make a play. One was a naked boot that they just got us on. Not surprising. Didn't do anything surprising. We just in bad situations, and teams can tee off and get after the passer.
When you guys are lacking production, what are the conversations like on the sideline?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to figure it out, right? There hasn't been panic. We know how good we can be, but just for whatever reason, we're starting slow. We're not functioning efficiently. We're not doing it consistently well enough. And then we have spurts in the second half where we're running the ball really well. We're moving the ball down the field, and we stall in the red zone. So, again, just not good enough. The conversations are what they are on the sideline, but clearly they didn't help that much.
All right, that's Mason Cole after the game. By the way, Jerry Dulac, our insider from the Post-Gazette, who is with us here weekly, informs us that, as you would expect, Kenny Pickett will get an MRI to determine the extent of this injury. So there's a lot of L's in there, PCL, MCL, ACL, who knows which one it is, and hopefully it's not anything that keeps him out for any extended period of time. You heard Mason Cole talk about the red zone. I really thought the red zone was going to be better this year because of some of the big guys they have available to him, whether that's Freiermuth or Darnell Washington, who's a big guy, got his first target, I think, today. And other options there. What have you seen
even
from the
Pickens?
red zone?
I mean, Pickens, he's tall.
Right, he's tall.
Throw the ball up to him as well. And it seems like when that field shrinks a little bit, they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the time that they spend in training camp on 7 shots, which, I know that's on the 2-yard line, but still, you're able to play down there in that tighter area, condensed area. You should be better than how you've been. And they got in the red zone today, once or twice, and they did not come away with, I think they came out with 3 points.
Yeah, you got to get.
And so they've got to get more points, and it's a matter of being more efficient with the football. It's been able to throw the ball in tight places. It's been able to convert on 3rd and shorts or on 3rd and goal, one short yardage. They're not able to do that right now, and that's why you're seeing them struggle to win games when they win games and they lose. That's why they're 2-2.
And the defense gets magnified when they don't score any points, and they got no touchdowns today. So the defense, no matter what they did, they were going to get in trouble, and they were, especially in the middle part of the field. There were 4 plays, looking back now and counting, over the middle. Inside linebackers were basically exposed on those plays. Landon Roberts talked after the game. Let's hear what he had to say.
Better.
You know, we knew what they was going to come in and do, establish the run. We just got to be better. And that start by just watching the film and getting better. Luckily, it's early in the season, so where you got them opportunities to fix it. But, you know what I'm saying, it's a collective. It's all 11, you know.
Did C.J. Stroud surprise you guys at all out there?
He's a good quarterback. He's going to be a great quarterback in this league. It was no surprises. I said it earlier in the week. They're doing a good job of putting him in positions that makes him comfortable with their offense. And, you know, he's not making bad plays to keep their offense. You know what I'm saying? He's keeping their offense on track. You know, he's not making bad plays. So when you can do that as a quarterback, you know, you're always going to give yourself a chance to operate well.
Is this the type of loss you guys can shower off, or do you have to let something like this sting a little bit?
No, you got to correct this. You got to correct this. I don't feel like no loss you can shower off. You got to correct this. You know, it's too early. But the thing about it is early in the season, and we just got to, like I say, we got to look all 11 in the eye come Monday, tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? We got to watch this film and really look at it, you know, and take the coaching, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that, and get better.
All right, Rich Walsh in the locker room. We have more coming up tonight. News 6:30 and 11, and tomorrow on Steelers Monday. Meantime, the Ford Road Ahead, brought to you by your neighborhood Ford store. Big one next week. There's no way of classifying it other than it is huge. The Ravens come here 3-1. If you lose a tiebreaker to them, you could be in trouble down the road. Then a bye week. And you wonder, Mike Tomlin talked about changes. If there are changes, normally it would occur during a bye week. We'll see. Then a 4 o'clock game at the Rams, who have been pretty good, better than I think most people thought, and then Jacksonville, which won today overseas in London, although they were also victimized by Houston last week at home, lost by 20.
Absolutely. These are 3 big games. You think about it, 2 AFC games here. The bye week couldn't come at a better time for this team after that Ravens game, because I don't know if you know this, Bob, a lot of times after the Steelers and Ravens play, their record after the game is not very good. So to have a bye week to be able to regroup, take your breath, get some guys back on the field, but also make some of those changes you're talking about.
Yeah. All right, we have spoken. A lot of people have spoken out there, the players, the coaches. Now it's time for you to speak. If you'd like to call us, we have a special edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, which we run every single night on KDKA Plus at 10:35. Now call 412-575-2600. We'll take those calls. You can also hit us up on Twitter at KDPump, at HokeyBro76. 30-6, the Steelers get manhandled today. We'll talk about it with you next, right here on KDKA.